I am Dracula. I bid you welcome.
It's alive!
Listen to them. Children of the night. What music they make.
We belong dead.
Welcome to a new series we're starting, which I'm going to call The Good, the Bad and the Universal. We've decided to go through the Universal series of classic monster movies such as Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, Wolfman, and so on and so forth. All the films that were like the famous monster films of Universal. In fact, we're adding a few others into the mix just for the hell of it, and that includes Black Cat, which is not a classic monster film, but is a Universal film, and it's just so bizarre and weird and different from the Universal gothic horror that I thought was worth throwing in. And also, you suggested we throw in Freaks, didn't you?
Yeah.
Now, there's a loose connection here. Todd Browning was the director of Freaks, and Todd Browning directed the original Dracula, which we're going to discuss in this podcast. We started this off by actually watching Mark Gatiss' History of Horror, didn't we? The three-part documentary about the history of horror movies from silent to about the 70s, early 80s. Which I suggested we just watch the first one, didn't I? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Because it had the Universal stuff just as but you liked it enough. We just watched all three, didn't we, in the end? Great series. Definitely recommend it. What did you take away from it, do you think?
Honestly, there's a lot more sort of going on in the background of these films than I thought.
Yeah. He did go into Freaks quite a bit, so it'd be interesting when we get to that. But he had a real love for these Universal films, and then he got the second episode was about Hammer, wasn't it? And the third was more about sort of 70s horror, so some British folk horror and the American sort of new gothic, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and so on. And he, unfortunately, didn't have much of a taste for 80s horror, which we're fans of, aren't we? You know, Freddy and Jason and so on. But there you go. Everyone's got different tastes. It was a really good series to give you a heads up on sort of the history of horror movies, really.
Yeah.
I think he started with Nosferatu, didn't he? It was that kind of was his starting point.
No,
Was it Phantom?
Yeah, I think it was Phantom.
Oh, I thought he did.
It was
Nosferatu.
all about Lon Chaney and his all his makeup and that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, we saw his makeup bag. That was kind of cool. Anyway, let's get on to Dracula. Now, Dracula, made in 1931, so a very early talkies. Talkies started in 30, and this was like the very first mainstream horror film, I would imagine. A talkie. And it made so much money. Universal basically dove into the horror genre quite significantly and produced all these classic films. Anyway, let's get back to Dracula. Lugosi as Dracula. What's your thoughts on Lugosi as Dracula?
I think he's really good at it when he actually gets some screen time.
Which isn't much, is it? He is extremely striking as Dracula.
Yeah.
This is why I believe when you talk about Dracula, people tend to think of Lugosi usually.
Yeah.
I mean, some people, you think of Christopher Lee too.
Yeah, if you think of a vampire, it's always like the long collar and the sort of, I want to suck your blood.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only more striking vampire is probably Nosferatu, actually. Whereas Lugosi's Dracula is a really, really striking Dracula. He's just part of pop culture now, isn't it? We got the Count from Sesame Street and everything, and he's very, very. Is that round face and that sort of hook nose kind of is very striking. His white feet and his weird staring eyes as well.
Yeah.
A lot of women found him sexually attractive. as well. I mean, as Dracula.
Okay.
At the time,
That's
it was kind of a weird sex
changes,
symbol
yeah.
as well. Yeah.
It's not. Unfortunately, it's not too different what people do in vampires nowadays.
I kind of, but he did model his look, I think, on the sort of I don't know the word, the sort of the striking male film stars today, like Rudolph Valentino had a lot of features similar to Rudolph Valentino, who was, women swooned over at the time. And it's
Yeah.
kind of interesting that. Okay, so the film starts with Renfield travelling towards Castle Dracula. Now this is a new restored Blu-ray set we watched this on. The picture was pretty fantastic, wasn't it? It was monochrome, obviously, but wow, was it? Some of the scenes were a bit soft,
Yeah.
but some of them were just extremely clear and striking. I've never seen it look so good, I have to say, and I've seen this film quite a few times.
Yeah.
So what do you think of the shenanigans with the peasants warning Renfield and so on?
It just seemed really goofy. I know. It
Yeah,
didn't seem like deadly serious. I was like, the coach car driver will not drive you from now on anymore. Oh, you should take this, and hands him this big cross.
yeah. I mean, this was early days of cinema. They didn't really know how to do sound at this point. It was very much a silent film with talking. That's how it felt to me. There was lots of gestures and very, very wide features changes.
Yeah.
They were really overacting, basically. But it was kind of fun. It kind of set the scene. And then he had to go meet Dracula's coach, didn't he? And we see
Yeah.
old Lugosi dressed as the coachman with weird staring eyes at it.
Yeah.
And then we get some of the goofy special effects with the bat.
Yeah.
Right.
That was brilliant.
Was the bat driving the horses? I couldn't tell. It was flying
the
above
bat was
the horses.
flying with the horses.
So he probably used mind
I-
control or something.
I assume that he just went further ahead because
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Renfield gets there and Dracula opens that door and we get the full Bela Lugosi in full outfit. That's a pimp outfit, that is. White shirt, he's got like a medal around his neck and a cape and everything. And some of them line deliveries, they were just amazing. Children of the night. I'm not gonna, no, I'm going to stop doing it. I'm not doing it. But some of them lines are classic lines. you know.
There's some weird stuff in the castle, like where they're like, "Oh, the creepy rats! Oh, the creepy bugs! Oh, armadillos!"
Armadillos. And also, what was supposed to be a rat, I think, was actually a possum. It looked like. I couldn't quite work it out. I like some of the ideas, though. Like, for example, when Dracula walks up the stairs and Renfield follows him, Renfield realises Dracula hasn't disturbed the cobwebs and he has to cut his way through it. And then we hear the wolves howling outside
Yeah, and then he goes, "Listen to the children."
of the night. What music they make, all that. And there's a good line when he's got Renfield in the room where he gives him a drink and he says, "Are you not drinking with me?" He goes, "I never drink wine." Awesome. There's some really good
I
stuff.
kind of took that as he'd like sort of slipped up and was like, "Oh, wine." He was
Yeah.
just trying to cover himself.
No, I think he was kind of. I mean, the intimation was he drinks, but not wine. And then we get a bit of Brides of Dracula stuff, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool. Goth, very goth. You have to. I think the entire goth movement started in this film. Actually, I think it's inspired by this film and the various other sort of incarnations of the moniker and Dracula or vampires of the time. And then we see Renfield cuts his hand, doesn't he? And old Dracula, they definitely had watched Nosferatu and were copying bits.
Yeah, the way Dracula sort of went around with his hands out in front of him, that was...
All the hands,
Yeah.
weird hand shapes, all that. Yes, it was kind of cool. So we get all of that, and it finally puts the button. No, Renfield kind of... He opens a window... No, a door, like a French window,
Yeah.
a French door, and there's a bat flying outside, and he kind of faints, and then we see the three brides of Dracula hovering. That's really... this must have freaked them right out back in the day.
Yeah.
But then Dracula waves them back, doesn't he? He doesn't say a word, he just waves them back, and he puts the button Renfield. And then basically we see Renfield's turn, doesn't he? He's a complete nutcase. He's not a vampire, but he's a slave to Dracula, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I think that quite a fundamental change to the story, changing it from Harker to Renfield, actually makes more sense.
Yeah.
When with the Renfield character, because he does. It explains how he got that way. In the book, it doesn't really make that much sense.
No, he just sort of goes crazy.
He's this crazy guy that goes on about bugs, and he's a crazy guy. I really like Renfield in this. So that kind of ends the first act. Then we see a boat in the water being tossed about and sailors on it, while Dracula's dry as a bone on a completely still boat, looking out of the door, and it didn't work. But and then they talk about it's a bit Nosferatu-y. The captain has tied himself to the steering wheel thing. I can't remember what. But we only see it in shadow, don't we? They don't show it. In fact, they're always cutting away in this film before anything happens, aren't they? Constantly. I think they didn't know what they should really show and what they shouldn't. We certainly get intimations of people about to be bitten.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a very odd scene later on where a maid faints at Renfield. And you can't blame her. He's completely he is mad as a hat. He reminds me a bit of the Joker in this. What do you think? And his weird grinning sort of white face.
Yeah.
And there's a touch of that, which they might have copied from. The Joker's kind of based on a character called in a silent movie called The Last Laugh, who looks very, got a white face and a grin, and Renfield kind of looks like that. Dwight Frye's the actor that plays him, and then we get into like a sort of almost like a drawing room drama, don't we? Of Dracula encountering Van Helsing and a lot of talking in drawings. I think the movie went right downhill.
I actually really liked whenever Van Helsing and Dracula started talking.
Oh, you like that?
Because it was like, this is a proper meeting of minds.
It did feel kind of he understood Dracula, and Dracula hadn't got the drop on him. I know what you mean. Okay, that's cool.
It also could just be I like seeing Dracula one-upped.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, this is really good. All this cool stuff. Hey, look at this mirror.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
It did feel a bit. It was like they were trying to trap him rather than understand. Try and destroy him. It was kind of like let's annoy Dracula by showing him his reflection. Kind of. Felt a bit like that.
And they pulled out like a crucifix or something.
Yeah, and it didn't. Yeah, because at one point Dracula goes for Van Helsing, doesn't he? Now that bit was pretty cool, but then he pulls out a cross, and that's the end of that. And we get some stuff. Doesn't Mina die, and Lucy dies, and
Lucy
Mina
dies.
There's a bit of stuff about the match girl getting bitten by Dracula on the way to the opera. There's plenty of I like all the Renfield stuff.
I liked
whenever
there was
Renfield
a great bit where they did a sort of cut. They did like an informative introduction sort of thing.
Yeah,
they were like, "Who could have done this?" And the maid walks in and goes, "What? Introducing Count Dracula."
Yeah, she goes, "Who could have done this? Dracula." Yeah, that was funny. That was a bit of nice bit of film literacy there. In a newly developing medium, but this did show all the signs of a medium that didn't really know what to do. There was. The only music in it was the credits, and there was a bit like in an opera. You heard a snatch of
which was the Phantom of the Opera set.
Wow, nice catch, nice. Well, so the Lon Chaney Phantom of the Opera. Yeah, of course. Okay, that's cool. But it was mostly set in drawing rooms after this, and a bit in the garden. There was a bit wandering around in the garden. Then we get the bit of the Carfax out of it. It kind of, the film was based on a stage version of Dracula, so it kind of showed that staticness, that stage production has. It wasn't cinematic as such, but they were learning how to do things, I think. What the pluses for me were really Lugosi and Dwight Frye. He was okay as Van Helsing. He was quite a striking figure and a strong character, that's for sure. Whereas like the other characters, Stewart, he was all right, but he wasn't a strong character. And Harker was like, all right,
dick.
He was a div as well.
It's like, she didn't want to tell him, but I have a right to know.
Yeah. The woman was like giving it her all, acting wise. She was overacting, and she was saying, "We can't ever be like that." And he says, "Why not?" You know. And they also a lot of the action that happens off scene, like what would be special effects happened off camera. We see the bat flapping around, really terrible effects. But then the next thing you see Dracula standing there, and then you see Dracula leave, and they see him run out, and they say a large dog ran away. So they definitely, it's definitely a bit too much tell and not show. Should be more show. But it was all right. What do you think of the film overall?
I think it was a really good film.
Are you glad you saw it? I mean, it is a kind of a classic, especially in horror. And everyone knows Lugosi, but you'll find that a lot of the Universals are like that. Universal was in charge of horror, really, in the 30s. There are some exceptions to that. There are other studios putting out some good stuff. And examples of other stuff, I guess Freaks wasn't Universal, but there's also things like Island of Lost Souls was pretty effective horror. And a lot of the really effective ones were pre-Hays Code. Dracula was pre-Hays Code.
Yeah, they had a whole bit with Van Helsing before the credits where he was talking to the audience, but that got cut because of the Hays Code.
I wonder what he said.
Well, I know it was like sort of reassuring the audience that nothing. It's like nothing that went on that we detailed in this story actually happened. But vampires still exist. Cuts are black.
Wow!
And that got done by the Hays Code because it was like offensive to religious.
Oh, please.
No, that was the actual reason.
Yeah, I'm sure, but it's ridiculous. I mean, they made a fortune out of this film, and they kind of were looking for another property straight after it, and they stumbled onto Frankenstein. So they were going for proper gothic horror. British literature was like a rich source for them. So the next time we do a Universal one, this one isn't going to be as frequent as the Kaiju, I don't think, but we'll do it now and again. But I think our next one will be Frankenstein. I mean, chronologically, it's Frankenstein. Boris Karloff's introduction to... no, that's not true. He made many films before this, but he just wasn't famous. But this was his first kind of starring role. Okay, so... should we rate it, actually? What would you give it out of 10?
I'd give it a 8.
Yeah, I'd give it an 8 too. It's got a lot of flaws. You like the bits with Van Helsing. I was not keen on any of the drawing room stuff, apart from when Lugosi was on screen and when Dwight Fry as Renfield in particular I really enjoyed. I even like the comedy Cockney stuff. I thought that was kind of fun.
I liked his discussion about the merits of eating spiders instead of flies.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. Renfield was a great
Why would I eat a fly when I can have a big, juicy, fat spider?
His laugh was one for the ages. I'm tempted to use that laugh as our beginning and end intros for the entire universe because it's such a wicked laugh. In fact, I might well do that. The audience will find out what I decide when I put this out. Okay then, so we both like Dracula and we'll be going on to Frankenstein next. Bye from me.
Bye.
Mm-hmm.